What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Knights here, and welcome back to Mordhau Mondays. You guys have been asking for commentary, so I shall deliver that. Now, I don't want you to be intimidated. I want you to trust me on this. It's not going to feel that much different, but the things that do feel different are going to be vastly superior. So, starting off, I want you to completely unbind strike. Next, we're going to move down to stab, and I want you to remove stab keybinds of any kind right here. Make sure there's none on here. Now, keep going down. Quick side note, I'd recommend you considering middle mouse button, which is push and scroll wheel, as your kick. I find to be very centralized and a very convenient location, but maybe it won't work as well on your mouse. I don't know. But anyways, moving down the list, getting that out of the way, go ahead and get to the right strikes and various right attacks. Go ahead and set up right strike to your left mouse, your right upper strike to your mouse wheel down, which is the default. And if you don't have that as your default anymore, go ahead and keybind this to whatever you use your overhead attacks as. Same with lower right strike. Go ahead and re-keybind that to whatever you have your lower strike set up to. Now, if you've been relying on 240 100% for this, then go ahead and think of a new keybind, preferably on the mouse, that is fairly centralized and readily accessible for you to use. Now, this is the main example of where keybinds can be set up in an efficient way, because if I did not have this flip attack side enabled to my left alt, in order to strike from the left in any way, I would have to keybind these all to a different button, and that's just way too much mechanical input. It confuses things, it throws it off, and in theory you're actually going to have all of the fruits that you would have just using this left alt versus having all of them bound. There's no mechanic you're missing out on. So go ahead and unbind everything to the left side, including the left stab. Make sure that's unbound. And go ahead and bind right stab to mouse wheel up, or whatever you have your stab bound to currently. So just to make it clear, you guys have not unbound any sort of attack really and changed it. It's all relatively the same. And again, flip attack side, set that up to your left alt. I highly recommend left alt. If you want to use Q, if you want to use F, you want to use X, you want to use cap locks, you want to left control, those are all fine. But for a fact, left alt is probably the most centralized thing. You can use your thumb to control this while keeping your fingers on WSA and D. And it makes it very, very convenient, because what this does is by holding left alt, not pressing, but holding left alt, this is what allows you to initiate an attack from the left side. Now, comboing, which is a repeated attack from left to right, or comboing horizontal or overhead attacks, combos actually will automatically alternate from left to right. So you don't have to hold alt whatsoever. If you keep spamming left mouse, you will actually swing from right to left. And same with the stabs. You do a right horizontal, and then you do a stab, you'll actually follow up with a left stab. Go ahead and keep that in mind. This will allow you to attack a lot faster. Having the 240 system drastically holds you back from comboing, which is a very important feature in the game. It also prevents you from moving to the right while swinging right conveniently, and moving to the left while swinging right, and vice versa, moving to the left while swinging left and moving to the right while swinging left. If you've ever run into a dual server or ran into somebody in front lines where they do a swing that they actually they look like they're fading away and the blade is like suspended within time and space, and it's very confusing to you, and you parry early and you get decapitated, that is because they are using keybinds and they are swinging to the left, or swing from the right side, so they're swinging right to left while turning right, and it makes the blade look like it's drastically being swung slower, which it actually is, because they're able to manipulate their screen in a different way. Whereas in the past, if you're using 240, your screen movements, your mouse movements are completely dependent on your attacks themselves, so it totally messes things up. And this is why binds are better than 240. So I hope you guys understand that. Go ahead and pause the video, check out my binds if you want to see the details, but I hope this doesn't confuse you. Again, this might take you a few minutes to adapt to, maybe even a few days, but if you do, I highly recommend it, and you're going to start seeing improvements in your gameplay, and you're going to be able to chamber a lot easier. Chambering is something that doesn't even happen very commonly with the 240 system. If you're two people both using 240, you're never going to see them chamber more than a few times in a row. And by having keybinds set up, if you've ever seen people clash swords like 5-6 times in a row, this happens because they're both using binds, and they are simply pressing left mouse button and it's automatically alternating the combo left to right. And it looks so impressive, but it actually takes little to no skill to do. And I mean, it takes skill to master it, but to actually get lucky and get a chamber clash is actually not the hardest thing you'd think. And it actually is very difficult to do using 240. So I hope that makes sense to you guys. And I'm going to move on to some analysis of my clips, explaining why my 240 clips are inferior to my keybind clips. All right, you guys, so starting things out with my first clip. These are all keybind clips that I've gotten in the last 24 hours or so. Now, as you can see, I was able to excel a hit into this guy. He fell off the bridge. But the point is I actually made him have to parry. I'm surprised he even blocked it. But I would have hit him without even seeing him on screen. You'll see here when I managed these multiple targets coming up at me, I'm able to kind of catch them with insiders, which is direct excels that I'm pulling into the targets, and being able to hit them with the very beginning of my release phase. So right at the end of the windup, you're able to connect with targets basically over your shoulder. And in this clip you'll see here, I'm able to catch 3 people with one swing. I just thought I'd include it because I've gotten this recently. Suppose I could have done this with 240, but regardless, it was a nice clip. And being able to master hitting people with the very beginning of your release or the very end of your release is where the skill gap truly shines in this game. So to be very clear, the beginning of your release is when your sword is at the very beginning phase of it being able to damage targets. So in that phase of your windup, the entire windup, you're actually not able to damage people. So it's right when your windup ends and your release begins, that is when you're able to do damage. So for example, mastering the beginning phase of the release is being able to hit targets without even seeing them. Whereas mastering the end stage of the release is something that you typically probably see in dual servers, is being able to hit targets with the very last 5% of your release before your blade is going back to its readied position and no longer doing damage. So that's what you'll see in dual servers, players trying to do these exaggerated drags that last, which seem like forever. It's actually because they're turning out of their drags, and this is a lot more extreme when you're using keybinds versus 240, because when you use 240 you actually have to flick your perspective left and right in order to adapt to it and counteract your movements in regard to which way the blade is coming from. So keep that in mind. There's still a lot of room to be made in the way of skill and target management, and the main thing when it comes to mastering excels and drags is catching people with the front and the tail end of your swings. Now this clip isn't nuts or anything, but I was just showing how I am able to chamber, clash, and manage multiple targets at once. Just for educational purposes. And I actually kind of mess up here in this clip, but you'll see I kind of, I'm over comboing, but I'm able to riposte and turn out and excel into him, and that's something that does take a high amount of skill to master. Now again, this clip I'm literally just going off, running in, decapitating everybody, and this comboing, notice how my screen's barely moving, yet I'm comboing. This is not possible with the 240 system. This is only possible because I'm using keybinds, and again, I'm just continuing to go on this rampage. So I hope this makes sense to you guys, and I really hope this helps your play. Let me know in the comments if something wasn't quite clear enough to you, and I'm happy to give you a very descriptive response to that question. So thanks for watching the video, guys, and I look forward to catching you in the next one.